You talk a lot about suffering,
Yeah.
and helping people to, I don't think you say end your suffering, but how to manage your suffering or how to experience it. So I'd love for you to talk about those concepts, our mind as a prison, suffering, for anyone listening that, is suffering over their past or their present.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful question. And the way that I delineate suffering versus, say, pain, pain I really say is it's sort of more physical. It's to do with our physiology. We're mammal sentient beings. You stub your toe on the table, it's going to hurt. You go for a filling at the dentist, depending on how much painkillers you've taken or anesthetic you're under, you may not feel it, but there's pain is just, it's unavoidable.
Sure.
And I would say the same is true of suffering. And I would like to consider that I do end suffering for those who are ready to hear my message. It certainly mitigates it and diminishes it greatly. And suffering for me it's really an umbrella statement that captures all of the human emotions that really create what we would consider problems or negative emotions, right? Anxiety, depression, feelings of like grief, anger. Suffering is where we're really, in a lay way of putting it, we're not happy with life, right? We're in some form of resistance. Yeah. And so that I delineate different to pain, which is physiological, because to me, suffering is psychological and emotional. It is part of the human experience, but it is nonetheless not necessary once you recognize the underlying, to get to the first part of your question, the prisons of the mind. When we look through the lens of not enough, we tend to create some sort of strategic coping strategy, albeit sometimes maladaptive. So what that means is this is the perfectionists of the world. These are the people pleasers, the people that work harder to overcome this feeling of, deep inadequacy, right? And so you can see that becomes exhausting, because not only are you utilizing your resources of whatever it is, time, energy, mental capacity, work hours as a compensation, which is for physiologically where people get sick, right? You're in a state of dis-ease, right? Because you're no longer at peace, but also you're sustaining and perpetuating the very lie that there's something not enough about you. So this is what I'm undoing, why I tell people I don't solve problems, I dissolve them. Because what I'm doing is removing the underlying context or prison that is fundamentally a blind spot, but nonetheless informs all of their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and consequently results. So they're the two, prisons are the precursor to suffering, and they're commensurate. When we dissolve the prisons, which is what I do in my mastermind coaching people, and I do it live in those live events, which is fun, then suffering ends, at least associated with that prison. There may be some other prisons that we got to tidy up, but most humans are sort of defined by typically 2 or 3 primary prisons. The others are either dormant or they've overcome them just by virtue of maturing and gone through life's knocks and maybe had a little bit of help from friends or therapists, and they realize, oh, that's not true, that I'm not loved, or but that's so that's the world of prisons and suffering. As long as you're in prison, even if you look at it literally, I don't know anyone who's in prison who isn't suffering, and it really is, if we look at it energetically, it's because to me it's in conflict with our nature. Our true inherent state is freedom. And so when freedom is compromised because of constraint, either bars and concrete walls, or in this case, narratives that are based in some negation, meaning I'm not something, then you are in a state of suffering. Awareness is to investigate, where are you stuck? And I reverse engineer. So someone's dealing with anxiety, if somebody's dealing with depression, or a weight issue, or a health issue, or a relationship issue, or somebody can't make money. All of these symptomatic, human, very everyday experiences, to me, reveal a deeper unconscious prison that then I will help them discover. So that's the first step, is people come to me with their problems. Like in my life, someone said, they're trying to improve their coaching business, which really wasn't the truth. She found out, she shared with us that her dad had told her one day that she's going to turn out to be a loser like her mom and her sister. So that was driving her perfectionism of trying to improve, in this case, her business. It didn't have to be coaching. She could be a stylist, she could be a hairdresser, but it's this underlying unrest that who she is flawed, right? So once I hear the story, I have, for whatever crazy magical purposes, reasons, the ability to suddenly know what prison they're stuck in. And then, so very similar to a magician who then takes people on the entertaining ride of revealing the elephant under the carpet or curtain or whatever, I'm helping them discover this fundamental prison. So with him, it's not your fault. So that's stage 1, bring awareness.
Okay.
Then the next stage is what I say, to investigate the validity of that constraint, right? Meaning in lay terms, find out, is it really true that it's your fault? And that's the beautiful moment, because I take people through my own sort of proprietary method where I say, if I cut you open, am I going to find a manufacturing label that says in this place, you know, Kenny, it's his fault, right? Is that part of your makeup? And he's like, well, no, obviously not. No. Okay. But it defines you. So where does it live? Obviously people get there eventually. Well, it's in my head. Okay. What's it made up of? You know, people like, oh, well, beliefs. I'm like, well, yeah, what are beliefs? And it's ultimately words. And if you really want to break it down, it's sound, it's vibration. So when you really understand that human suffering and people being inhibited from realizing their own potential and self-expression is based on sound,